Nothing else, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Scott Jones for the introduction of our speaker. Scott.
All righty. Thank you for that. Great applause. I appreciate that. Made my day right there, guys. Some of you guys, even if you're the least of baseball fans, might recognize the accomplishments of Robin Ventura, because he's certainly kind of a legend around here, and we're fortunate that he's back. He's one of the greatest hitters, and I think probably the greatest hitter in college baseball history. We're so fortunate he returned last January, I think, and brought COVID with him, I guess. But and he joined the Cowboy baseball family as a student assistant. I know he's just a couple years older than your normal student assistant, but hey, it is what it is, right? He's, of course, a very decorated baseball resume. He has, both collegiately and professionally. 3-time All-American here at OSU. He's in the National Collegiate Baseball Hall of Fame. He played 16 seasons in the major leagues, where he's a 6-time Golden Glove winner. If some of you don't know what that means, he could really scoop it at third base. And he's got a protege here he's worked with that's pretty good at third base right now himself. He also was named twice to the All-Star team. He spent 5 seasons after he played as a manager of the Chicago White Sox. Just a few of the highlights of him: when he was here in college, he was a freshman in 1986, and he hit 469. I mean, a freshman hit 469, virtually 1 hour, 2 times up. He's got a base hit. And that's the highest single season in Cowboy history. And think about all the great history of hitters we've had in the Gary Ward era. The following season, what does he do to top that? Well, he set an NCAA record of 58 game hitting streak, 58 straight games. And he led the Cowboys to the championship game. The last season he played here, his junior season, he carried the Pokes to the record 61 wins, which is still a school record. And he was the Golden Spikes Award as the best player in college baseball that year. And after that summer, he was a gold medal winner when he helped Team USA win the gold medal in Seoul, Korea. So it goes on and on with him, but he's virtually holds every hitting record, batting record at OSU, except for a guy named Pete that might have outslugged him a little bit here and there. Anyway, he is in the career record book in Major League Baseball. He hit 18 grand slams, which is 5th all time in Major League Baseball history. And if you think of baseball history, that goes back a long time, but don't have to say any more about what he's done. We're so proud to have him back here at OSU, Robin Ventura.
Thank you, Scott. It's nice to be here. I do not have a canned speech for Rotary, so I just don't have one. But just to explain how I kind of got back here, I was coming back to football games, and EJ Pfister does a tailgate, the former golfer, Dave knows, and a friend of mine, and Bob Tway and all these guys. And I barbecued one time. I made tri-tip, which is where I'm from, California. I make tri-tip, and I made it, and they're like, all right, this is now going to be our new added thing to the menu. So I kept coming back every home game barbecuing, and I ran into Josh, and I was looking for something to do. I hadn't managed, and Matt had just come on as the volunteer, and Josh and Matt were like, yeah, come back and maybe, help coach. And I'm like, I'll think about it. So probably 3 games later, they come back again and they're talking about it. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, that would actually kind of be fun. So let's look into that. Well, he came back. He said, the only way you can do this is you have to be a student coach. And I said, well, what is that? I said, I know what the word student means, but does that actually mean that I actually have to go back to school? And he said, yeah. He goes, but you're the perfect, you're the only one that can do it, because the way the rules are, the last place you had to have attended was Oklahoma State, and you can't have a degree yet. You have to still be working towards your degree, and it would work. And I'm like, oh, damn. I didn't want it to be that I was the only person to do that. Somehow I wanted Matt to be that person, but it didn't quite work out. So I'm much better at time management at 53 than I ever was at 18 to 20 years old. So this has been a little bit of a struggle getting back into this. And now you add in COVID where everything is online and you're doing the virtual studying. It's a bit much for me, but I'm getting through it. I did have one class where I had to do a Zoom call with a fellow student, and it scared her. She was not expecting a 53-year-old man to be on the other side of this video. And I had to say, no, I know what it looks like. And I know, and everybody got a real good laugh at that because she's friends with some of the guys on our team. And so she had to call them and ask about it. But I calmed her down. We got her through. The best part about it is she wants to be an athletic trainer. So I said, well, the good news is you've asked the right person because I'm going to give you all the questions that you need to ask. So I actually did her assignment for her. And I don't know if I'm supposed to do that, but that part I can cover. But it's just really nice to be back. I love being back here. I mean, Oklahoma State means a lot. And, you know, the community around here has been very supportive of me and the program. And I love the guys I work with. The kids are great. I have a lot of fun. I'm excited. I get excited every day to go and help these kids and whatever it is they need. I mean, it's baseball stuff. Sometimes I've had a couple of them in the same classes and help them kind of through that. But it's just really been fun to be back here and kind of reunite with a lot of people that are pretty important and influential in my life that I think, you know, I know I'm better for having gone here and the people that I've been in contact with. So it's just really nice to be back here. Again, I thank Scott for asking me to come here and see you guys. So, and again, I don't have a canned speech. So if you want any questions answered, I can do it. Yeah. Well, the interesting enough, the Jim Abbott question, when you said the Olympic gold medal, he was our pitcher on that team in 1988, which was actually a really good team if you look back over it. In the way that the 84 team had probably bigger names that people would remember, but they really didn't have a lot of pitching. And we were loaded with pitching, but we also had guys that a lot of people didn't know, Tino Martinez, until he ends up with the Yankees. You know, Ed Sprague that ended up with the Blue Jays. We had Ben McDonald, Andy Bennis. We just had a lot of really talented players, and that's still one of those. You know, it's special to play for a school, but when you're playing in the Olympics and it's USA, it was probably one of the cooler moments of playing sport because at that time it was still amateurs. So none of us had any money, which was even better. One little fun story of that was at that Olympics, they put you in these villages and there's these high rises. They're like 10 stories high and they build them just for the Olympics. Then after the Olympics is over, they use them for housing. So we're in there and the baseball team, we're on like the 3rd or 4th floor. And above us, when we were waking up in the morning, we were getting woken up and you just hear this kind of this scratching sound every morning at about 6, which is not good for baseball players. We like to sleep in, but you just keep hearing this little tick all the time. Then there'd be like 2 of them and you're like, what is going on? So we kind of look into it and we're like, oh, the wrestlers are above us. They're jumping rope at like 6 in the morning. So then these guys on my team figure out that John Smith and Kenny Monday are on the team and Joe Shea's one of the coaches. They go, you should go talk to them and see if they might want to push it back a little bit. And I'm like, this is not a good idea. In my head, I'm like, I'll do it, but this is not going to work well. So I walk up there and knock on the door and Coach Shay opens the door, I start talking to him like, do you guys really have to? He goes, really? You're coming? And I see a guy kind of walking from the back, and I can see John and Kenny, they're jumping rope, and it's Dan Gable. That conversation did not go well, and I can't really tell you what he told me, but it was enough for me to say, yes, sir, we're just going to have to put up with it. And I'm going to go right back out here and tell all these guys how much of babies they are. But there was a lot of foul language, and I would never do that again. I'm not, but John and they started getting up earlier, actually, after that, just to prove a point. But after that, I was drafted by the White Sox and ended up playing for the White Sox for 9 years. And at that time, the White Sox weren't very good, which sometimes you look at, you get drafted by a team and you think, oh gosh, this team's really not any good. But if you think about it the other way, you don't really have to spend a whole lot of time in the minor leagues, which kind of helped me out. So I was able to make it up after 1 year at AA. And they kind of, with our team at that point, it was an older team, and they kind of moved those guys out. And we had a really good group of, they drafted well. We had Frank Thomas and Alex Fernandez and all these guys that were kind of these college players that were really good. So we got moved up. Jack McDowell, which, beat us in a final in 1987. So we had a really good team, and it was a really young team that it was fun to play on. So I was there for 9 years, and then they'd had enough of me. So I ended up signing a contract to play for the New York Mets, and I played there for 3 years. And then they got tired of me, and they traded me to the Yankees for 2 years, which is kind of a weird thing when you get traded. Normally, in baseball, they just call you up and go, hey, you're now in Milwaukee, and you got to pack up all your stuff. Usually the wives do it because you're already gone. And I got a phone call in December. It was like early December, and our GM calls me, and they give you the, hey, it's been great. You're really, I'm like, just hit the point here. Just let's get to the point. He goes, yeah, we're trading you. So my brain immediately goes to, all right, where am I going? I got to start packing and everything. And he goes, well, we're going to trade you to the Yankees. At that time, I'm living in Connecticut, and he's talking. I don't even hear the rest of what he says. I just, okay. But my brain's go, well, wait a minute. I just got traded closer to my house. It's like 20 minutes closer to the house, and it's to a good team. I walked away from him and go, hey, it's been great. Congrats. Yeah, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So I was there for 2 years, and then I got traded to the Dodgers for my last 2 years, which for me, I grew up in California, a huge Dodger fan. So for me to play there, if you could kind of take your 10 to 12-year-old self and say, if you could do one thing and play for one team, what would you do? And so I got to play for the Dodgers, put on, I wasn't starting at that time. I was kind of backing up, and which was even better at that point at my age, because I got to go to the beach in the morning, go ahead and take a little BP and watch a game, and I'd pinch hit in the 8th and maybe play a couple games. But it kind of kept you youthful to, if you could think back of all the times you listened to a game on the radio, and I would sit on the bus going to the games, and Vin Scully was always on there. And, Vin Scully was the announcer when they were in Brooklyn. So you get to hear the actual, Jackie Robinson stories, the Sandy Koufax stories, and which really became special to just be able to play there and kind of experience that. And after that, I retired in 2004. I became an incredible 8th grade girls basketball coach. Yeah, I had a couple championships I'm proud of. I didn't even have to interview because nobody really wanted the job. And our principal was a good friend of mine. And I said, am I going to have to interview? He goes, no, you're it. You're it. And I said, okay. And I have 3 daughters, and my oldest one at the time was in the 8th grade. And I asked her about it. She goes, "Oh yeah, you know, that'd be fine." And so I had a daughter was in the 8th grade, a daughter in the 7th grade, and a daughter in the 6th grade. So I did it for 4 years. Uh, my first year was a little difficult because I was in a wheelchair because I had an ankle transplant. I had a injury in the middle of my career that required a cadaver ankle transplant. And it happened like a week before the season started. So everybody felt sorry for me a little bit, but I was in a wheelchair. It ended up working out fine. I did that for 4 years, and I coached Little League. I mean, you name it, I was coaching it. I have a son that I coached his, T-ball, and I'm overqualified for the T-ball. I can say that for the T-ball coach. But they learn how to slide and have a little fun. I did that until 2012 or 2011. I started as a roving coach for the White Sox. Buddy Bell was our minor league director, and I'd run into him at some place. He goes, "Hey, we need you to come back and kind of, do something." And I said, "All right, I'll do it." So you'd fly out somewhere and watch a team and kind of help guys. And I got to take my son with me, which was kind of fun. And then from that, we were moving my daughter. My daughter was going to go to UCLA. So we're moving her into the dorm. And I got a phone call from Buddy Bell. He goes, "Hey, I need you to fly over to Phoenix, where the White Sox have their spring training." He goes, I just need to talk to you about next year and doing stuff. I said, "Yeah, that's fine. I'll fly over." So I fly over, he picks me up, he starts driving me around. I'm like, "All right, where are we going?" He goes, "Well, we're going to go to GM's house. He just wants to kind of talk to you." And I'm like, "All right, this is weird." So they bring me in there and they go, "Hey, you have any aspirations of like managing or do anything like that?" I said, "No, I like what I'm doing." And they're like, "Really?" So there's a long pause, and they go, "Well, we want you to manage." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I don't, I got kids." They go, "No, the major league team." And I'm thinking, "Are you guys out of your mind? You have to be crazy." They said, "No." And so, you think about it for a couple days, and Buddy Bell, who's a great guy, kind of mentor of mine, he was like, you need to do this. And he goes, "You're the right guy to do it. We're not going to be very good, but you need to do this." So I did that for 5 years, which is fun and hard and crazy all at the same time. And after that was until 2016. And then I wasn't doing anything for a couple of years there. And then fortunately, there was still an opening for a student coach here. And that's the one thing I locked in on after that. So, I've been doing this since last January. With the COVID thing, it's, obviously we lost last year, but really having fun with it. I think now with the new stadium, I don't know if everybody's been over there or not, but it's incredible. It really is. And I think it has a little bit of the new, you miss some of the old stuff of Valley P, of how kind of raw it was. And there's some, tougher conditions about being over there, but this new thing is incredible. I think it's obviously going to help our recruiting. We have a nice recruiting class coming in for next year that I think, we're up there with anybody in the country if you want to talk about facilities, and it's important. I mean, you really don't think about it. And I know coming into it, I thought, "Oh, it's nice, we'll get a nice stadium." But when you have these things and you get, the technology of things is taking off, it's kind of like we're in golf a little bit of the little pressure points and TrackMan and all these other things that go in there. The kids, they understand that kind of stuff. And I think we have some of this stuff over there. We're moving into getting a little bit more, but it only helps us. And I think when we can actually fill the place, it's going to be incredible. Because even having some of our games that we haven't had a full house just because of COVID protocols, but when it gets full, it's going to be great. I think the outfield, the fraternities kind of have the outfield, and they don't really do a lot of social distancing out there. So you might want to stay clear of that area if you're worried about that. But they're great. You look at all these college stadiums all over this, the student sections are really fun, and they do a really good job of, and they heckle pretty good too. I like that part of it. They're having a lot of fun out there. So, it's fun to be able to go to work every day over there and have the means and the facilities to help these kids improve, not just baseball wise, but they're young and they're kind of maturing into men. And I think Josh does an incredible job of kind of instilling that in them. And, the one thing about the staff that we have, it's not just to have a great program, but it's to have a great Oklahoma State program, because everybody cares so much about it that we really don't kind of put up with a lot. If you're going to embarrass Oklahoma State, you're kind of embarrassing us. And I think it's very personal for a lot of the coaches and the staff that's there, which I think is even better because Josh has such a history. There's pictures of him when he was, this tall, and there was cyclone around Alley P. So he's been there a long time and understands, and Matt does as well. And with Rob and I played together. My freshman year, it was his senior year, and John Littell's one of our coaches, and we have Marty. Marty's like the outcast because he doesn't really have Oklahoma State ties. Good coach, but he's the only one that doesn't. Everybody else, Victor Romero played here, and so I think that's kind of the fun part of going there, is how much everybody enjoys being here. But that's pretty much my kind of run through everything. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to hear, but if you have questions, yes.
Yeah, so many of us in the audience here work or teach.
It's a Bachelor of Arts. Yeah. My major is a Bachelor of Arts.
You think to be able to get it in about 10 years?
Well, there is a rule that I have to get it within 5. And Marilyn at the academic department is slow playing me, so it's going to be 5. And I told her, I said, hey, it ain't all it's cracked up to be. It's very hard to be able to, because when you're coaching, you're actually over there earlier and you leave later than the players. So you have less time to do everything. So when we have the one day off, Rob Walton's like, hey, let's go play golf. I'm like, I can't, I have homework. 12. I have to be a full-time. Yeah. You hear that? I hear it. I hear what you guys are saying. I feel that inside. What you guys say, I feel that inside.
So you spend time with the academic sports.
Yeah, I don't know if I should say. I'm gonna say I should tell the Maryland. Is that safe, John? So Marilyn Middlebrook was actually my advisor when I was in school. She now runs the athletic academic department. And when I came back, I kind of went and saw her and we started talking. She goes, this has never happened to me before. Nobody's taken 30 years off and come back. And I said, yeah, and she goes, I think it's great. It's going to be great. So as much as it was a struggle to kind of get my classes and understand, at that point, I'm like, I don't know if I can go to class. It's going to be hard. So at that time, she goes, all right, we'll do some online stuff. And one was a beer making class. We didn't actually make beer. We could have, but it was the science of doing it, there was other kids on our team that were in it as well. So, and the first couple of weeks, it was hard, like figuring out the canvas and the module, where my assignments were, how to get them in. It was like this whole new thing for me. And I'd go see Marilyn and she'd help me out, and they'd help me figure out stuff. And Amy would too. So as it kind of kept going along, I'm like, gosh, they're doing so much work for me. I should probably do something nice for them, you know? So I bought a bottle of red wine, found out Marilyn likes a bottle of red wine. So on a Thursday, I went in there and I just put it on her desk. I said, I just want to thank you. She goes, oh, you know, you don't have to do that. And she grabbed it really fast. And I thought, okay, you know, that's nice. So the next week I brought in another one because she's helped me. So now we're on this like 2-year thing where every Thursday she knows there will be a package delivered for her for the weekend. And she goes, you know, most of my students bring me like flowers and cookies. I said, you're right. They're 18 years old. I'm wise enough to understand at the end of the week, this is what you need, not cookies and flowers. So she will tell people that I'm her favorite student of all time. And I know it's because of the wine. It's not because of me.
So tell me about the analytical way you and Matt determined who would be first base coach.
Well, at first I got picked first last year, and we were at Grand Canyon in Phoenix, and we scored 1 run in like 5 innings. And I just took my helmet and handed it to Matt. And then they went and scored 2 runs for him, which was nice. So we kind of had that, and then the season ended. So then we started this year, started off great. Wichita State, I'm at first base. We scored 2 or 3 runs, and then it was crickets for like 10 innings. So I gave it to Matt the next game. We had like 2 innings. I'm like, all right, you do this. Then it looked like he was playing Yahtzee. They scored 3, they scored 5, they scored 4. So then he started doing it for a while. So we basically switch off. Like if we're not scoring runs, the other guy's got to go out there. So it's not scientific at all. There's no sabermetrics. It's all about if they score and who they don't want to talk to in a dugout, pretty much. Oh, everything's about, I'm just glad they actually washed their clothes, because back when we had it, they didn't really have a big laundry department there. So a lot of guys wore the same socks and everything for the whole weekend until you get to it, especially if you had I did not do that. Even in a hitting streak, I washed my stuff. But there was guys that did not wash their stuff, similar to what those wrestlers used to do at the bottom of Gallagher. They would wrestle. So in the old days, we used to hit in the basement in the winter, and there was a rubber track, and you'd have to run around 11 times for a mile. But you have to go by the wrestling room, and they didn't wash their stuff. Those singlets could stand up on their own, but the smell going by that door, you kind of slow played it, and then you started picking up steam when you got by that door because it was so bad. But yeah, there's a lot of superstitions in baseball.
So during that streak, you had superstitions.
I never really did. It's just I can't remember any, but there's guys that have plenty of them. I mean, you run into guys that you play against or with, and you know, Turk Wendell used to like chew black licorice in between innings, which just, I don't know. And then he brushed his teeth right after in the dugout and then go out and pitch. So you get guys that have some weird things. Yeah, I think sport kind of brings that out. There's a lot of different types of people that you know, Brian would know as well. There's some different characters out there, and they all find a way to make it work. But you enjoy playing with those kind of people just because it's just something different, and they're funny and kind of crazy. I mean, we had I don't know if people remember Jeff Bronke that pitched here in the 80s. I'm probably telling a story. I don't know if this is going to go out. Oh, perfect. So we're in Omaha in 1986, and we're staying at a Best Western out in the suburbs of Omaha, but they gave our team a courtesy car. And somehow Jeff Bronke got a hold of the courtesy car, and it came limping back in to the hotel with doors falling off it, and just it was. And I remember walking by, and Tom Holliday just looked at it thinking, all right, I'm going to have to go fix this. So I mean, you just have people that they're just kind of crazy, and you enjoy them. And he was great. He was very fun. But we had a lot of characters that have come through here. Believe me.
So you mentioned your kids, are they still in sports? Are they still playing?
No, they're all out. I have my second one is married with a granddaughter. I have a granddaughter. The other ones are living in California right now. They're graduated and working. My oldest daughter actually came here. She was here, I think 2000. I think she graduated in 12 or 13. I wish I could remember that, but and then I had two go to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and my son went to Georgia. Why? I don't know, but let them go where they want to go. But they're all, my youngest is now 22, which kind of frees me up to be able to do this, which is great. They're all doing great. Nope.
Were there any particular pictures that you look forward to facing? And maybe
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny that Sean, you picked out some people in your little quiz that I either know or I don't want to face. So the big unit was one that you did not want to face. He's 6'10", do 100 miles an hour. Kind of didn't really know where it was going for a while. So what I used to face him, and I did okay. And then he really started getting his control. And we were playing in Seattle one year, and this is when I was still facing him. And I hadn't shaved for like a week, just lazy baseball stuff. But I was facing him, and I thought, I know he's going to throw me a slider. So I'm sitting on a slider, but he threw me a fastball. It was like right here. And I just got my head out of the way. But as I stepped back, I thought, gosh, something's burning right here. And the seams had just gotten close enough to melt my stubble. So now I'm still standing there, and I asked the umpire, he goes, yeah, you didn't get hit, but you got like a little thing right there. And I'm like, well, that means I got hit. And he goes, I'm not giving you that. So I'm sitting there thinking, as I'm getting back into the box, I'm like, okay, we're not going to do that ever again, because you have to make a business decision sometimes in baseball. I can either maybe get out on this pitch, but I won't be drinking out of a straw for 6 months. And I can play tomorrow if I don't get hit in the face. So you kind of make a little bit of a business decision. And then after the game, the coaches are like, don't worry, you're never going to face him again, because you're not going to play. He goes, we could tell you didn't want any part of that. So yeah, Randy Johnson was definitely one I didn't like facing. There's guys on certain teams you felt comfortable against, just the way they deliver it. And it has really nothing to do with velocity. It's just kind of how you see the ball out of their hand, because some guys can throw hard, but you see it easier. And some guys don't throw very hard and you can't see it, but and they just eat you up because you just don't see it very well. So like Greg Maddux, I didn't want to face him anymore, because he could make his ball move, and he had really great control. And I felt like he was reading my mind all the time of what I was looking for, and he would throw the opposite. So you just, at that point, then you're going to start thinking opposite, thinking he's not going to do it. But he was really good. He was a guy I don't want to face.
So I know you're a huge influence on these young student athletes, and you probably have one too. So much. Probably the biggest one is to go charge the mound.
No, well, that we haven't gotten that far yet. we're still catching the ball and throwing. Oh, I don't care. I don't care. No, I mean, it's not like I run into them or anything like that. So, but we're just working on catching and throwing right now. We'll get into that part probably later. Yes.
When you were on your hitting straight here, so you would pop up, I mean, wear out pictures on the team. Did anybody keep track of what your record was?
I don't think they kept anything like that. I really don't. I mean, I don't even think we have like the box scores they just didn't keep stuff like that. Like now, every kid, every pitch they see now is on video for them to look at. So they can go into the classroom there and there's a computer, they punch it up. You can see every pitch, everything that they've done in the game, as well as the pitchers, but you can also see everybody else in the country, what they've done. So you get to see what those pitchers throw and how they do it. Like we never really had that. You just you had to watch. So a lot of it back then was you just show up and you'd watch the guy warm up and go, okay, this is kind of what we're going to get. There was really no video stuff to watch, where now they're kind of overloaded with video and information. Some of it's good, some of it's probably over their head, but they feel like they need it. I know I've talked a long time. I thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Robin, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for